Hello everyone, welcome back to Touch the Fire Twice. I'm Joshua, and I'm here today to do an in-depth sniff and comparison review of 6 tomato fragranced candles, including Bath & Body Works, and all the way up to some high-end luxury brands. But first, if you're new to Touch the Fire Twice, welcome. My mission here is to share my love and passion for fine home fragrance as an enthusiast, an educator, a reviewer, to inspire you to increase your own fragrance knowledge and understanding, ultimately enhancing the scent memories that you create. If you want to learn more about what I do, why I do it, and how I do it, you can check out my website at TouchTheFireTwice.com, and please do give me a follow over on Instagram, also at TouchTheFireTwice. Now let's dig a little bit into tomatoes themselves, right? So tomatoes have a surprisingly complex scent profile that goes far beyond the kitchen. The fruit itself gives off a sweet, slightly tangy aroma with just a hint of muskiness, while the vines and leaves, often captured in fragrance as tomato leaf, are intensely green, herbaceous, and almost peppery. That sharp green note comes from natural compounds in the plant that evoke the snap of a fresh stem or the warmth of a garden in late summer. In fine fragrance, tomato can take many forms. Tomato leaf brings brightness and bite to green or citrus scents, while the fruitier aspects show up in warm, sun-drenched Mediterranean blends. Some perfumes lean into the vegetal sharpness, while others round it out with florals, herbs, or soft woods. It's a note that feels vivid, earthy, and a little nostalgic, like stepping outside barefoot into a garden that's been soaking in sunlight all day. Today, as we dig into 6 different tomato candles, 3 from Bath & Body Works and 3 from luxury brands, Flamingo Estate, Apotheke, and Outdoor Fellow, we'll see citruses, green herbs, and even floral accents woven throughout each one. First, we'll dig into each of the 6 candles, talk about the brand's scent story and notes. I'll get my nose on each to tell you what I think, and then we'll spend a moment unpacking some of the more unique notes within each. And as always, we'll cover the performance, that combination of the wick and the wax, for strength, throw, and projection, to get those fragrance molecules up into the air and into our noses. We'll wrap by doing a true comparison of each candle so that you know the style of tomato fragrance each displays, so you can decide which vibe is right for you. And as always, we can't compare the candles to each other without a direct comparison to the fruit itself, so we'll be using these seasonal Comparative tomatoes. Now, let's get to picking. First up, we have the most recent launch from Bath & Body Works, the Off the Vine tomato candle. This retails for $26.95 and is their traditional 14.5 ounce 3-wick candle. Primary notes are heirloom tomato, garden geranium, and Mediterranean moss. Getting my nose on this, it really opens with the juicy heirloom tomato, but the real charm, I think, is the balance. You get a slightly rosy green lift from the geranium, which is almost like a mix of lemon, mint, and floral brightness. And the moss at the base adds a slightly earthy depth. I think this really is a well-rounded blend. It's green, citrus adjacent, and softly musky, but it never goes harsh or too sharp. And within this, I'd like to pause and kind of focus on 2 of the more unique notes in the fragrance, which are geranium and Mediterranean moss. Geranium is surprisingly complex. There are hundreds of species, but in perfumery, we mostly use Pelargonium graveolens, also known as rose geranium. It has a rose-like scent, but with a lemony twist and less of the classic powderiness. And the most prized variety offers a beautiful balance of fruity mint rosiness with some green aromatic undertones. Now, as far as Mediterranean moss, generally that's going to be a lighter take on traditional oak moss, which is a lichen used for its earthy, mossy depth. The Mediterranean variety will bring us a more sunlit herbal feel. It's fresher, less forest heavy, kind of softening the base of this candle with something grounded, but not overpowering. I find myself really gravitating toward this. In fact, I did buy 2 of them, and as is common with Bath & Body Works, the performance is fairly good. Strength, throw, projection is solid. Those 3 wicks pull out pretty consistently and cleanly here, and I get a very healthy projection throughout my space. So I am, in general, a fan of Off the Vine. Then we move over to Bath & Body Works 2012's Tomato Garden. My understanding, from what I remember at least, was that this was in fact a test fragrance in their massive spring market collection, which had, I always will go back on this, some of the most unique spring or fresh garden scents that Bath & Body Works has ever had. They had sage cucumber, honeydew and thyme, blackberry grapefruit, this tomato garden, just so many unique scents that were really one and done. They never came back, including Tomato Garden. Now, the notes on Tomato Garden: fresh picked ripe cherry tomatoes infused with sweetened black currant and a touch of white musk. Getting my nose on this one, Tomato Garden is really all about the fruit. It leans into that sweet, juicy cherry tomato with a whisper of the black currant to round it out, almost giving like a hint of jamminess or almost a cooked tomato. There's no heavy green note here, just clean, soft musk underneath. It's simple, fresh, and probably the most purely tomato forward in the lineup. I want to talk about black currant as our sort of note spotlight from this one. And black currant isn't your typical sweet berry. In fragrance, it's often tart, green, and slightly sour, almost like crushed stems mixed with underripe fruit. It has a sharp, almost animalic edge, kind of the cat pee muskiness, that can add complexity and brightness to a blend. And while Bath & Body Works lists it as sweetened black currant here, it still brings that tangy snap, almost a greenness that helps lift the ripe tomato without turning the whole scent completely sugary. It's more vegetal than juicy, and that's exactly what makes it work here. Really like this fragrance, and it's a shame that it never went wide. Then we move on to 2013 at Bath & Body Works to Heirloom Greens. Escape to the garden with this cheerful blend of heirloom greens and tomato vines. Getting my nose on here. Now this one smells like you just brushed past a tomato plant in the garden. The stem, the leaves, maybe even a little dirt clinging to it. It's sharp and bright with a peppery edge. Less fruit, more vine and some green herbs in the background. Easily the most authentic true tomato stem scent of the BBW trio that we've got here. And also worth note is in 2016, Bath & Body Works released a candle called Tomato Vine, you can see here, that had notes of sun-kissed tomato leaves, fresh spring greens, and a hint of lemon, but in fact it was just a repackage of Heirloom Greens under a new name. I really do enjoy this one. You've got the stem here, you've got the fruit here, and then maybe a combination of the two. Really an elevated 2025 variation with Off the Vine, but we'll get deeper into the true cross comparisons when we go through the other candles as well. So now let's move into the luxury world. First with Flamingo Estate, their Roma Heirloom Tomato. This is an 8-ounce single wick candle, retails for $60. I believe the packaging actually has evolved. This is from a few years ago in 2022. I actually did an in-depth sniff review and brand introduction video, which you can see here if you would like. And so the packaging has evolved a bit, but the scent is still the same. Primary notes of tomato vine, holy basil, and black pepper. The brand shares, the Heirloom Tomato Candle captures the supple green essence of balmy summer nights in the garden. Think ripe tomatoes hanging heavy from freshly watered vines, their leaves at their most fragrant. The candle releases an intoxicating aroma of herbaceous, peppery earth, evoking a wildly nostalgic summer feeling that lingers long after the flame is out. Getting my nose on this one, this is a statement fragrance. Right away, you get a bold burst of sweet, spicy holy basil, aromatic, just a little camphoraceous. The black pepper adds a brightness and an edge, and there is a deeply green resinous layer that feels maybe like galbanum, even if it's not listed, and we'll get deeper into galbanum in another candle here. And this one really isn't about the fruit, it's about the full tomato plant, wild, herbal, earthy, and in this case, conceptual. For this one though, I would like to dig into holy basil specifically for our spotlight note. So holy basil, also known as tulsi, is a sacred herb in India, and it's actually quite different from the sweet or Genovese basil that most Americans use in Italian cooking. So while culinary basil like that leans fresh, peppery, and a little minty, holy basil is deeper and much more complex. It has a sweet, spicy aroma with hints of clove, anise, and camphor, and leans almost medicinal, but still in a rich herbal way. In fragrance, it typically comes across as bold, green, and slightly resinous, which gives this candle a wild, almost sacred garden energy, and it really goes beyond your average herb. Big fan of this one. This is very much a statement fragrance, a statement brand, and certainly stands out. Now let's move along to Outdoor Fellow, an independent candle brand. This is their 8-ounce single wick candle, and it retails for $35. Opening this up in their traditional glass, very simple with all the notes listed, which I appreciate. Outdoor Fellow actually gives us a full list of their notes. Top notes of lemon zest, satsuma orange, and sparkling pineapple. Middle notes of basil leaf, juicy ripe tomato, and galbanum, as I mentioned. And base of lily leaf, star jasmine, and tomato vine accord. Getting my nose on this one. This might be the most balanced, certainly, of the luxury options. The citrus in the top, kind of the lemon and the satsuma, adds a brightness without leaning into anything too tropical, even though there's pineapple listed there. The heart is a fresh blend of tomato, basil, and galbanum. So you get that green sharpness, but it's also then smoothed out by some of that soft floral base with the jasmine. Everything really feels in harmony here. This is clean, layered, and I would say super guest friendly. Now, as I mentioned before, both the unmentioned galbanum that I think might be in the Flamingo Estate Roma Heirloom tomato, there is noted galbanum in the Outdoor Fellow, and galbanum is a deep green resin with a bitter, earthy edge, dry, piney, rich, green, bitter, woody, and mysterious. The raw gum is harvested from a Persian grass in small drops called tears, and it's a thick, sticky resin that smells deep, earthy, and even balsamic. In candles and fragrance, though, you're more likely to encounter galbanum essential oil, which is produced by steam distilling that gum. And the distillation process draws out the more volatile aromatic compounds, and the result is then a scent that is sharper, brighter, intensely green, bitter, and slightly spicy, often described as cut grass on steroids. Most galbanum today comes from Iran and Turkey, and I certainly see that in here. And so this one, again, it is clean, it is intensely green, a bit of the sweet fruitiness, some brightness from the top notes there, really a nice, clean, layered, balanced fragrance. Now we move over to Apotheke's Tomato Tarragon. This, in fact, is their 11-ounce single wick candle, though now they sell it on their website as a 14-ounce 2-wick candle with a retail of $54. The primary notes in Tomato Tarragon are tomatoes, tarragon, and orange zest, but the full note breakdown includes top notes of vine-ripened tomato, grapefruit, and bergamot, middle notes of basil, tarragon, tomato stem, and gardenia, and the bottom note of musk. The brand story, as they share, is Tomato Tarragon combines the vivid aroma of vine-ripened tomato and the crisp, watery green essence of its freshly picked stem, combined with an herbaceous blend of tarragon and basil, a citrusy dash of bergamot and grapefruit, and a hint of gardenia to create this zesty summertime scent. Getting my nose on this, I will say this is gentle and fresh. It is, quite honestly, quite light in performance compared to the Outdoor Fellow, which is straightforward, a solid performer, and the Roma Heirloom Tomato, which will knock you out. It will carry and coat your entire space in the depth of that kind of mysterious heirloom garden tomato. And this one, I would say that it is much more on the lighter side than the others. In fact, I had this burning a bit ago and it was really quite light, more than I even remembered. But this one I would say is gentle and fresh. You get light tomato at the start, but what really defines this is the tarragon, that sort of soft, celery-like bitterness with just a whisper of anise. The citrus notes add brightness, but they're subtle, not sharp. Compared to the others, I would say this one is more breezy and herbal than boldly green. It's clean, elegant, and easy to enjoy. With this one, the fragrance note spotlight that I would love to talk about is tarragon. So tarragon has a fresh aromatic scent with hints of sweetness and spice that fades softly over time. It's often compared to anise or fresh celery, depending on the variety. You've got Russian tarragon, which tends to be mild and grassy, while French tarragon is more pungent and bittersweet, thanks to a compound called methyl chavicol, which gives it that distinctive licorice, anise, or fennel-like character. In fragrance, it can bring a gentle herbal complexity, and here it balances the tomato beautifully without overpowering it. When it comes to strength, throw, and projection of tomato tarragon, I will say at least this, say 2022 11-ounce single wick version, not super impressive. As you can see here, I burned this earlier this afternoon after not burning it for a couple of years, in fact. And after 2.5 hours, it still did not fully pool, and I really couldn't smell it much in my space. So I'm assuming that their 2-wick will likely burn much hotter and get a full pool. It is a 14-ounce from what I've seen on their website. I've not experienced it myself. I haven't used Apotheke for some time, but it is a nice fragrance when you're thinking of the comparison of the luxury and mass market Bath & Body Works tomato candles. Something that I find interesting when we look at all 6 of these fragrances, when we're thinking of tomato-based fragrances and the different directions they can go in, is what these all have in common is, in addition to tomato or tomato vine notes, we see citruses, green herbs, and even floral accents woven throughout each one. So basil is the most common supporting note, ranging from sweet garden basil to the more aromatic holy basil that we see in the Flamingo Estate. We've got citrus elements like lemon zest, bergamot, and grapefruit that really add lift and freshness, while you have some soft florals like the jasmine and lily leaf and even gardenia that bring a touch of elegance to the greenery. Some of the candles push deeper into that green profile. Outdoor Fellow, for example, layers in that galbanum for that sharp bitter green edge that's vivid and almost wild, while Apotheke adds tarragon for that slightly anise celery adjacent twist. And then a couple of the candles actually round out with musk at the base to create kind of that softness and warmth. So while there is tomato as the clear star across the board, the supporting cast, greens, herbs, citrus, florals, and base notes, really gives each candle its own distinct voice in the garden. And it would be remiss to not actually tear into one of these tomatoes to do a true scent comparison. So let's just go for it, and it's gonna get everywhere, right? But just pop, woo, yeah, everywhere. Rip open this tomato, so messy, but there's no more summer smell, right? Then I won't eat it in front of you than this, but it is so fresh and green. I mean, it is, to me, the epitome of garden is tomato, and oh, it's so sweet, but green while still being fruity. It really is wonderful. Now, if we're comparing the 6 fragrances here and thinking of, recommendations of what direction to go, and especially if you haven't smelled the 3 luxury candles, if we're thinking of side by side, let's talk about how each of these candles interprets a tomato theme. So Bath & Body Works Off the Vine blends juicy tomato with that green lemon mint brightness and a soft rosiness from the geranium. The Mediterranean moss adds quiet depth at the base. It's really a balanced mix of green, citrus, and floral tones, more refined than a typical Bath & Body Works fare. The Bath & Body Works Tomato Garden, which unfortunately you can only find if you look for it on eBay, leans into the fruit. Fresh cherry tomato with a splash of tart black currant. It's juicy with subtle vegetal edge, and the white musk underneath keeps it clean. Likely the most tomato forward of the group when we think of the fruit itself. Bath & Body Works Heirloom Greens, also no longer available, is the most authentically green of the 3 Bath & Body Works trio. It's a true tomato stem scent with peppery brightness and herbaceous lift. Apotheke Tomato Tarragon offers a softer herbal profile. The tomato here honestly is subtle, enhanced by that celery-like bitterness from the tarragon and a kiss of citrus. Clean and understated, and perfect for those who want something fresh without too much drama. Which leads us to the drama queen herself, Flamingo Estate's Roma Heirloom Tomato. It is the boldest and most conceptual. You get spicy, resinous holy basil, sharp black pepper, and a possible hit of galbanum. It's more about the plant and soil than the fruit, a wild, sacred garden kind of vibe. And then we've got Outdoor Fellow Tomato Vine, which may be the most balanced from the luxury options. Bright citrus up top, layered green and tomato in the heart, and some soft florals underneath. It's fresh, modern, and very guest-friendly. If Flamingo Estate is high concept, this one is thoughtful and approachable. So if you're looking for sweet, I'd say from the current candles that are available, Off the Vine may be the clearest pick among those. If you want bold and green, go with Flamingo Estate. For something clean, layered, and versatile, Outdoor Fellow might be your best bet. I know there are many other tomato fragrance candles out there. I'd love to hear your thoughts on those. Any that I should check out that you love. Have you smelled, purchased, and or burned any of these 6? I'd love to hear your thoughts on these or any others. And let me know what other fragrances you'd like me to do sort of these comparison deep dives into single notes as we explore how they are built in different variations of the heart note. And until next time, take care.